Over the course of our 7-year decluttering journey, I have learned so many lessons when it comes to decluttering kids' clothes. And I have settled on a rule of thumb that makes it so much easier and faster. In this video, I'm taking you with me as I decluttered my daughter's wardrobe for winter. And I'm gonna show you what I got rid of and why, so that you can save time, save frustration, and simplify this routine. I started the decluttering session here in my daughter's room, who is 7 years old. I remember before Scott and I were even married, and I definitely wasn't pregnant, one of my friends dropped off a huge bag full of like baby clothes and baby supplies. And I remember being so excited and thinking, oh my gosh, this is so cute. I love it all. But then quickly realizing how much time and effort goes into managing these items and figuring out what we needed and what sizes and how many and what we should keep and what we should get rid of. I found out that the mental load required to look after kids' clothes can feel so heavy. This was over a decade ago, and I feel like only really in the last few years have I finally figured out how to manage kids' clothes without like losing my mind. The first step I took during this decluttering session was just to pull out our grow into bin. I do this part probably twice a year, fall and spring. And I also reset this bin, if I get like a new load of hand-me-downs, or if I'm digging around and looking for something specific, like a dress for Christmas photos or something like that. So do you need to have a bin like this? Absolutely not. If you don't have the time, energy, or interest in this, you absolutely don't have to do this. Hand-me-downs can be amazing, but they also can be overwhelming and time-consuming. So if you're looking for a really simple way to make the process easier, maybe not keeping or accepting hand-me-downs might work for you. But if you do keep them, my biggest tip is to have a physical limit on how much you can keep. For us, that is these bins. We have one bin per kid plus one bin that we use for outerwear items like shoes and coats and snow pants. I don't allow myself to have more than I can fit in here, which means that when I go to do these seasonal changeover, it's way less overwhelming. So I just did a quick review of what was in there. I pulled out what we could potentially use for this upcoming winter, and then anything that wasn't gonna fit any time soon, or it was like set up for summer, I just tossed back in. And as I was doing this, I instantly started a donation pile of items she definitely didn't like or we definitely didn't need, which we just kept adding to as we kept going through things. Next up, I reviewed her existing clothes. There's one part of the process that not only makes it easier to declutter clothes, but it makes them easier to manage like during the year, and that is to have them organized by category. Because seeing all the t-shirts and all the dresses together is going to make the decluttering step 1,000,000 times easier. If your drawers or closets are already organized by this, then you can just like take all the clothes out as is. But if you don't have them organized by category, don't stress. That's super common, and it can just be part of the decluttering process. Step number 2 was that. It was just simply pulling everything out and sorting by category. And now, do I always pull everything out? Absolutely not. Sometimes I'll do like a mid-season declutter without pulling everything out. Or if they randomly outgrow something on a Wednesday, I just toss that into our outgoing bin. It doesn't have to be like a big thing. However, I will say that psychologically, when we see something that's already perfectly folded and tucked into our closet, I feel like we are way less likely to purge it. Whereas when we have everything pulled out and we're sort of looking at things like in the wild, we are way more ruthless, I think, about what we keep and what we get rid of. On this particular day, you can see I had Annie Rose working with me. I have 2 kids with 2 very different perspectives when it comes to clothing and their belongings and like what they own. Leo, our oldest, who's almost 9, has 0 interest in participating decisions. He doesn't really care what he wears, and he would probably prefer if I did this process for him until he left for university. Whereas Annie Rose is very interested in being involved and part of the process, and she has much stronger opinions about what she wants to keep and what she wears. I get so many comments from both sides of this argument. I'll have people argue that I'm a bad parent because I get rid of stuff of my kids without asking them. And then I have parents, usually in real life, who confide in me that they just can't do this process with their kids around, which I totally get. And the longer I've done this, the more I've realized there is no like clear-cut answer. Every child, every parent, and every situation are different. And even I do this differently depending on the day or the category or the way the wind's blowing. I don't necessarily sit down with Annie Rose and ask her about every coloring book that I'm getting rid of. So whatever you choose that works for you, you are not doing it wrong. And finding out what works for you and your family might take a few tries, and that's totally normal. Next up is my tens rule, which is probably my biggest tip when it comes to managing kids' clothes. Thinking back to my younger self when I was getting all those hand-me-downs and the babies were tiny and I just like didn't know what I was doing. It's like you're dealing with becoming a parent and looking after this infant, and then on top of that, you're spending all of nap time trying to figure out what to do with the 3,000 onesies that you've been gifted. But sometimes we don't even know where to start. The one thing I've learned over the years of trial and error is that having a number in mind of how many to keep of each category is going to make this process so much more streamlined. This is what I call the 10s rule, and that title came from the fact that I have found that for our family, keeping around 10 items of each category is what works for us. So as I'm decluttering or curating a new wardrobe for their season, my goal is for the kids to have around 10 t-shirts, 10 pairs of pants, 10 pairs of shorts, etc. Do I follow this to a T every single time? Obviously not. This is a guide. And your number might not be 10. Maybe you're in the infant phase and all they wear are sleepers, but you need to have 20 of them. Or maybe you live in a tiny apartment, but you do laundry every other day, so you actually prefer to have 5 of each item. Your number is going to depend on a ton of factors, and numbers will change as they age, and they take a minute to figure out. And you're also going to have some outlier categories like sports uniforms. Like obviously I'm not going to have 10 gymnastics leotards for Amy Rose if she only does gymnastics once a week. But the point is, just having some guideline like this will provide a structure, which makes this next step so much easier and so much faster. I know the first few steps might seem sort of tedious and like you're not making any progress, but you are setting yourself up for success in this phase, which is step number 4, and that is reviewing each item and deciding what we want to keep and what we want to go. At the end of the video, I'll share exactly what we got rid of, but when we're making these decisions, I usually start with her favorites. Like, okay, we know we want 10 t-shirts, and I know that these 6 are her absolute favorites and she wears them all the time. So I'm like, okay, Amy Rose, I think these are your favorites. And she's like, yeah, you're right. I love all of those. Perfect. And we know we have 6. And then I go to the other end, the ones that I'm pretty sure she doesn't like or that she's never worn or she never reaches for. I'm like, are these maybe 4 you could probably let go of? And she's like, yeah, I don't really care about those. Let them go. And those are the easy decisions. And then we move to sort of like those middle guys that we're not sure what to do with. And I usually just try to kind of ask clarifying questions like, why do you like this? Why do you not like this? What would you wear this with? And then when we know we've got down to approximately 10 items, we know that category is done and we can move on to the next one. And you just keep doing the exact same thing for each category. You can see on this day, my kids were on fire. They were just like wound up, and Leo being there was like not helping. However, because we had this guideline, because we had things categorized, because we followed the steps, the process actually went by pretty fast. As you can see during the process, I'm also throwing like some of summery items back into our bin that we'll just keep for next summer. In Ontario, we were kind of in that stage where it was fall, but it was still sort of hot. So we're still wearing shorts sometimes, but not every day. Now, next is the last step to set yourself up for a successful season of clothes. We have worked in countless kids' rooms, kids' closets, and I can confirm that there is no perfect or right way to store kids' clothes. Hangers, drawers, shelves, baskets, whatever you have, you can probably make it work. So I normally don't suggest spending like a ton of time and energy and money on how things are organized because you're probably going to have some limits. And so just making it work with what you have is probably your best bet. This final step is just putting everything away in a way that works for you. And is it going to look exactly like mine? Absolutely not. My key suggestion is just making it easy to put things away, easy to find things, easy to see everything. And if your kids are at a certain age, maybe making it easy for them to put their laundry away, for them to find what they're looking for. For example, we have everything in Amy Rose's clothes. Everything fits in these drawers. We don't have any hanging space for her right now, just because that's how the setup worked in her room. She has a very small room. We were pretty limited, but we've made this work for us. But then we'll be in houses where they have everything is in a closet. So everything's hung and then maybe a few baskets on top, and that's great too. It doesn't need to be perfect to be organized. Okay, now that we've done the steps, here's what we're getting rid of to show you some like actual specific practical examples. So a lot of the clothes that we get are from my niece, Amy Rose's cousin. She's super confident. She will wear whatever. She doesn't like worry about being like anyone else. She is her own girl and we love it. However, she will wear way more than Amy Rose wear. So this vest, for example, I kept because I thought Amy Rose might think it's cool, but she was like, no, I don't want that. Get rid of it. Okay, no problem. Here's a sweatshirt that is pretty classic. It's pretty basic. However, and we kept it specifically because I have one in my size that's like almost the exact same. So I thought we could like kind of match. But she has never worn it. So I said, like, do you even like this? And she's like, no, it's too stiff for me. So she, again, very picky about like the feeling of things. So this is too stiff, whatever that means. I also had this tutu that I thought would be cool. It's black and it has Wednesday on it. So I thought she'd really like that for Halloween, which is actually coming up in a few weeks. But I think she's just out of the tutu phase. And in her mind now, she wants to look like a teenager, not like a 5-year-old. So that's fine. And I want to make sure I donate this now so that another kid can potentially wear it for Halloween, for trick-or-treating or whatever they dress up for. This one, she had simply outgrown. She wore this sweater about 7 million times in the past like year or two, but the sleeves were just too short and like it was driving her crazy when she was wearing it. So that was an easy one. Here's one that I actually just said, it's so stained. I'm like, she wore it a ton over the summer, but there's a bunch of stains I just couldn't get out. So we've washed it so many times. So I'm probably just going to chop that one up for rags. She will pretty much never wear any sort of jeans. Anything with pockets, like she won't wear unless it was like a really like soft pair of jeggings or something. But she's pretty much only leggings and maybe jogging pants. So these technically would probably fit her right now, but she just won't wear them. And honestly, I don't really care. So I can just donate them. And they're in perfect condition. So I know that they're like a perfect one to pass on to someone else. This, when she was at craft camp in the summer, they tie-dyed t-shirts. And this was one that she tie-dyed. But it was kind of like she tie-dyed it because it was part of the activity, but she never wore it after. She didn't like it. And so she said she wanted that to go. Same thing. This is also from the same camp that she went to, and it was a tie-dye, but she didn't like the camp. And I think that's part of it. Like she didn't have a good week there. So I think it's like a bad memory for her. So that's fine. Here's another one, another sweater that I think is so cute. It's like soft and it would be so cute in the wintertime with little leggings. It has like little characters on it and like a little fuzzy vest. But she can feel, when she has it on, she can feel the like feeling of the embroidery from the inside and she can't stand it. She can't wear it. She has a little set of jammies. So these are actually not a set, but we're gonna donate them together and hopefully someone will wear them as a set. She liked the pants from this one and she liked the top from this one. So that's what she's gonna keep and that is fine with me. I'm like, I try to kind of keep sets together, but I'm also not super picky about it. This was just a t-shirt that she'd worn a million times this summer, but I think has just gotten a little bit small on her. And again, we knew that we wanted to keep our t-shirts to like maximum around 10. And so that was sort of just like, didn't kind of make the cut. This again was a super cute nightgown that you'd think that she would love because of mermaids, but this, she doesn't like that feeling around her like shoulders, especially you want to be comfortable when you're sleeping. So no problem, that went. And these were a pair of leggings that fit her perfectly and they're super soft. And so this is one where I was kind of like, I think we should keep these, but she doesn't like the print. Like she wants stuff to be bright. I think she thinks this is like grandma or something. I think it's adorable. I love it, but I'm also not 7 and I'm not the one wearing it. So there you go. That's everything we got rid of. I think it's about a dozen items, maybe 14. We also had some items where we're already on our shelf in Leo's room where we keep the items that they've outgrown like randomly throughout the year. And it feels so good to get that done. I had that bin upstairs for days before I actually tackled it. So it felt amazing to get it done. It feels like we're ready now, sort of like for fall and to just enjoy like the happiness of the fall and winter season. So I hope that gives you some motivation and inspiration for your own home. If you want to check out my past video about kids' clothes, I'm going to link that right here if you're interested. And if you decide to leave a comment in the comments below, please be kind. Thank you guys so much for watching and I will see you soon. Bye guys.